So how was capture the flag?
I had a blast.
I'm going to say, real quick, for the record, I would like to say that Team Amazon, quite impressed, determined to get me through thickets, through cacti, Joshua trees, rocks, ravines, gravel, dirt, rolling in dirt. So kept going. Wow. We quite admit it was quite a show, so good job, everybody. It was a lot of fun. And I hope you guys over the weekend, you guys have had a great time when you're up here. There is a lot of element of fun, but there is also an element of learning while we're up here. I'm going to talk about something I have an incredible passion for, something that is very, very important to who I am. But before we get there, before you know who I am, it might help a little bit if you know who I was. Of course, I'm Stuart Powers is my full name. My mom's maiden name is my first name, and most people don't actually call me by my full name because it's really strange. And like my mom would be like, introducing me to her friends. She's like, "Oh, you named your kid Stewart." And my mom's like, "Really? Earth to you." So she's always called me by my short name, Stu. I'm very quirky. I have lots of energy. I'm all over the place, as you can see, and I can go a long time. Some of my friends call me Gecko. I'm a total Cubs fan. I've had a lot of different jobs, lived all over the United States. But I do want to share you a specific story about my childhood, and childhood. I'm out of my 20s, so I call that my childhood now. I'm 30. So I want to tell you a story real quick, and kind of like Golden Girls style, Sophia-like. So picture this, Chicago, 2005. I just moved to Chicago. I was recently made a manager at the company I worked at. I worked for Southwest Airlines. And at the time, I just left Seattle, which I moved back home to after school because I really felt I needed to figure out who I was. I had this huge gaping hole in my heart, didn't know who I was, and I needed something. I had no idea what it was. So I really thought maybe if I went back home, where I was born, I would find who I was. Didn't find it there. So then I was looking around, I'm like, man, people love their jobs. I need to pursue career. And if I have this great career, I will be happy. Totally fell for it. Over the first couple of months while I lived in Chicago, slowly but surely, I started to marry my job. We went through a dating phase, an engagement phase, and then I'm like, will you please marry me, and I will spend the rest of my life with you. Slowly but surely, I started realizing I was working 80-hour work weeks, sometimes 24-hour shifts. A lot of times I was scheduled until 10 o'clock at night, and I would not go home until 2 a.m. because, honestly, I was loco. I had no idea what was running through my head. However, though, I was making great money on overtime and double time, so I leave my own apartment, fill it with a bunch of useless crap. However, though, my first TV, I was really excited. My first DVD player. I remember buying my first couch. I went to IKEA. It really felt good. But the thing is, like, all that is great, but over the time, working 80-hour weeks, 24-hour shifts, out in the snow, quickly wears on you. And because I do have the gift of energy, I got a long time doing this. I did this almost for a year before slowly but surely things started to change in my life. Fatigue settled in really, really fast. And once it's in your spirit, man, it is in there like tooth and nail, like it's in there, and it's not coming out. And then I started getting frustrated. And then I'd fail. I'd make a failure, character failure. And then I'd get more fatigued. And then I'd make a bigger frustration. And then I'd make a bigger failure. And it's like this downward spiral staircase. And the thing was, I wasn't walking down the stairs. I was sliding down the banister. Like, full speed ahead. Let's go. Bumps, bruises, the whole 9 yards. It actually got to the point where I actually was separated from my job from a character mistake. And the specifics aren't important, but needless to say, here I was in Chicago with nothing left. My wife left me. I was heartbroken. And I did not know what to do. And not only did I have this gaping hole in my heart, I had a much bigger gaping hole in my heart because now I had no idea what to do. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So you'd think I would learn. Now I'm kind of a bit of a thick-headed person. And I didn't do it one more time, or 2 more times, 3 or 4. I almost did it 5 more times before I realized something has to change in my life. I don't know what it is. And I was floundering. So we're going to take that little story, let's put it in a little box, and we're going to set it off over here. Because what I want to do is to take a walk through the Bible real quick. And some scriptures that have some major importance in your lives and things I've read many, many times, never really took them seriously and really realized how important they are. You're not going to go very far. Let's go to Genesis 1. In the beginning, there is God sitting over this formless mass of nothingness called the universe. And we all know how the poem goes. Day 1, he creates this. Day 2, he creates this. Day 3, 4, 5. And finally, day 7 rolls by. And what did he do? He rested. Exactly. Moses, in this little quirky little poem that he writes, it's the first poem in the Bible, and it's the only poem until you hit Psalms, and it's the only poem outside of Psalms. So it's pretty cool. So it's something you should pay attention to because, honestly, it's unique. And he writes, on the very last day, on the seventh day, having finished the task, God rested from all of his work. God rested. Now, the funny thing is a lot of people hear this word rested. They don't really understand the power behind the original Hebrew. And we're going to do a little Hebrew lesson here. The word for rested is the word Shabbat. Sounds very similar to another word that some people may think of. But this word is kind of think of, the way they would describe it, if someone were to use this word, would be like if you wound up a little monkey toy that has little banging nipples, and you wound it, and it'd go bang, 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 and then it would stop. That is the word, how this word would be used. Or if you were to take a bocce ball, roll it across some rocks and some dirt, it would go, and then it would Shabbat. Cease. Desist. Stop moving. So here we have God, and Genesis 7 says, finished his task, and God rested from all of his work. And in the very next verse it goes, God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from his work of creation. So we have rested again, we have Shabbat, we have this other word, holy. We see it a lot, we use the word holy a lot. But really, do we know what it means? Judd's talked about this a few times, but the word here in Hebrew is the word kadash, which means to separate. It's kind of like pictures, like if you had like a bunch of marbles on a table and you put your hand and like split. That would be, I have kadashed, or the Red Sea, I have separated. Or when Jesus said, I have separated you from the world. It's like causing a division, putting like a border. So in the very beginning, you have God resting, and you have him separating. And it's really funny when you look at every single one of these days in the poems, you have God creating something, he blesses it, and then he separates it. Day one, first day, you see him, he creates, the light, the dark, and then day two, sky and water, and then third day, and so forth. You really think, maybe this is it. This is the only time Sabbath is mentioned or resting. Wow, it keeps going. So God not only modeled it, he passed it down on stone tablets. And one of the probably the most memorized, regurgitated verses and chapters of the Bible is Exodus 20, which is the 10 Commandments. That's right, I just added 10, that's pretty cool. And it reads in Exodus 28, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days a week are set apart from your daily duties and regular work, but the seventh day is a day of rest and dedicated to the Lord your God. Now the funny thing is that this is not just haphazardly thrown anywhere. What is it around? It's in the 10 Commandments. Things with brevity of like not murdering, honoring your mother and father, not coveting and taking other things, and not pleasing idols in your life. Even more so, the number is important. Number 4 is next to the heart of the 10 Commandments, which would be the 5th. So God is saying this is important not only because I said it. I'm trying to make this so clear to you that it's in the 10 Commandments. I put it on a tablet, and I've modeled it. And Moses even went a step further to make sure that the Israelites completely understood this. And in Leviticus 23:3, it says, you may work for 6 days each week, but on the seventh day, all work must come to a complete stop. It is the Lord's Sabbath day of complete rest, a holy day to assemble your worship. It must be observed wherever you live. Wherever and whenever you live. Pretty clear. There's really no way to talk your way around this. Moses says, Pazow, Kadash, and Shabbat. Make it happen. So some people are thinking, well, that's some Old Testament mumbo-jumbo. Yes, Jesus came, he changed the law. Hoorah. This obsolete. I thought that too. If you were one of those people that think that, let's take a look real quick at Mark 2:23-8. We have Jesus walking through the field with his disciples, and it's a Sabbath day. And as they're walking, they're breaking off heads of the wheat, like the little top part, the little flowery part. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees see him doing this, and they're thinking, we have him now. They're looking for conflict, and now they think they've baited him and trapped him, and they're like, yes, we have him. They run up to him and say, what are you doing? You're working on the Sabbath. Do not take the 10 Commandments seriously. Jesus is like, okay. And he says this. He says, the Sabbath was made to benefit people and not